I wanted to talk you through some of the thinking around the framework that has led to this focus on reward and recognition today. And so one of the things we've been doing over the last couple of years really is both trying to learn from what the Beacons are doing, but also sort of looking more widely at what are the key factors that really help explain and guide institutions who want to embed public engagement. And we've kind of identified sort of three kind of clusters of things that really matter. One is around the kind of purpose that an institution has, its leadership and its mission, and the ways in which it as an institution really wants public engagement. The third cluster is around really the sort of processes within the institution, the support, the learning and the space for reflection, but also crucially the reward and recognition. So those kind of 8 areas to us are really important. And just to explain to you just a tiny bit about where these came from, Bruce in Wales was thinking really hard about organisational change and how to make sense of it, and he pointed us very early on to this approach called a maturity matrix that was being used in health to sort of help the organisation make sense of how it could get better at its professional practice. Looking over particularly over the Atlantic to what's happening in North America, there's been a huge amount of focus on embedding engagement across the US higher education system, and a whole range of different indicators and models of engagement. This is just one of many, Campus Compact. And again, if you look in the bottom right, academic leadership, etc., resource allocation, but absolutely the roles and rewards within faculty. And when you dig a little bit further back in history, you come really to a woman called Barbara Holland, who wrote this in 1997, looking at service learning and how service learning can be embedded in an institution. And they did a really systematic review of a range of research papers that had been written. They interviewed a lot of people. And they came up with this table with those 7 headings, which again have really informed our thinking. But you'll notice on the second tier down, promotion, tenure, hiring, absolutely critical. And in terms of this idea of a matrix where you might map out a series of levels at which you might embrace this kind of challenge, I think her thinking is really interesting. She said for them there was no intention for the matrix to judge correctness or goodness regarding an institution's commitment. It wasn't about saying we're brilliant. It's much more about reflecting on, as she says in her second paragraph, it's a framework to help compare where it ideally seeks to be positioned on the matrix and its assessment of its current location to support coherent institutional planning and decision-making. So the logic isn't that you have to be absolutely excellent at everything, but you can reflect and assess where you are and then think about where ideally you'd like to get to. What this shows you is what that matrix might look like for reward and recognition. And what you'll see is that clearly reward and recognition is a very broad concept, really, that captures quite a lot of things. So what we've actually done is broken that down into sort of 5 key areas. And those 5 key areas, such as appraisal, performance review, job descriptions, promotions criteria, awards and prizes, and going along the 3 sort of parallel columns is actually thinking about, well, where are you when you're kind of right at the start of the journey? Where are you when it's developing, it's getting better? Where are you when it's actually effectively embedded within your institution? And just a final thought, looking at the work that the Beacons themselves are doing, clearly already a whole host of things have been happening in those different areas. So I've just picked out a few examples here. For instance, under the first, appraisal and performance review, Glamorgan University, part of the Wales Beacon, has come up with a very sort of comprehensive notion of the Glamorgan academic. And within the Glamorgan academic, there's a really clear articulation of the need for economic, social and kind of cultural engagement as part of what it means to be an academic at Glamorgan. Under the relevant job descriptions, an example from MMU, including a criteria for promoting innovative public engagement and community engagement. Those are the themes that a little later today are going to structure the conversation on the table.